Hi everyone. At the moment I'm vacationing in Europe, but when I came across the news that the Orange Menace had been raided by the FBI, I couldn't resist. It's just too juicy. So I've decided to make a video to explain the astrology of the situation. And as one might expect, turns out that every planet is doing something, which really isn't a whole lot of news, since that has been the case with this guy for quite some time and will continue to be the case going forward. But at the moment, on top of the Jupiter triggering the Access Hollywood D, and therefore having him in a very dangerous legal situation, because that's his legal house, together with the fact that Eris is near its station and squaring Venus and therefore doing the same thing, we see that at the time of the raid, the moon, of course this would always happen, is in the early degrees of Capricorn, therefore directly triggering his Access Hollywood T-square, the one formed by Neptune, Eris, and Mercury. Simultaneously, you see another fast-moving planet, Venus, directly opposed Pluto at the time of the raid and near its natal position, which, by the way, is never a good thing. When a planet is returning to its natal position and you get raided by the FBI, that does not bode well on that account for the next year at least, which is the Venus transit. Now notice that he has Pluto and Mars rising at 10 degrees and 26, almost 27 respectively. This creates a midpoint in the 18.5-degree range. And here is where it tells you that going into the next short while and longer while, going all the way into November, there's a huge problem because Saturn and Uranus are transiting through those degrees in Aquarius for Saturn and in Taurus for Uranus. The traveling Saturn-Uranus square is effectively hitting his Mars-Pluto rising planets. This is reflective of the system coming for him, basically seeking accountability. Definitely on account of the Saturn, but also Uranus, because in this case, Uranus becomes part of the problem as well. We even notice that the Sun is about to move into these degrees. It's at 16 or so now, but it's moving toward 18.5 in the next couple of days, which is exactly what Mercury is doing as well. Mercury's at 7 plus right now, but it's moving toward 9, 10, which makes a semi-square to his Saturn-Venus conjunction. So pretty much everything is in on the action. Mars at 21 plus degrees, you can see here in the ephemeris that currently in the 23 area isn't quite doing anything yet, but it's moving toward the direct square to his own Mars, which is going to happen in here mid-month, thereby, I'm sure, eliciting all kinds of rage in him, but also reflecting the major trouble that he finds himself in. If you look at the ephemeris in 7-day increments going toward the end of the year, you can see the Uranus moving toward that 18 degree that I've shown here, right there. You can see it moving toward its station in late August, and then taking it pretty much into October, while Saturn is moving into its station at the end of October. So this is telling you that this is going to continue for quite some time and is unlikely, very unlikely, to be a good thing. If I had to point to why the issue is records, I would probably connect to the Access Hollywood T being challenged mostly by Jupiter as the big planet, but the moon in the symbolism because they're pointing at Mercury, and Mercury would always connect to matters of records, and the fact that Neptune, as part of that T-square, is also in a house connected to records in his chart, the third, and Venus, being the ruler of the third, again, you get more records and the fact that Venus is involved and Pluto is opposing it and so on. So, bottom line, not a good thing, and I would say a very strong possibility that this is major trouble in the near term and in the long term for this guy, on account of this and on account of who knows what else. But certainly this one looks serious. And by the way, I have to say that to those who have expressed doubts about Merrick Garland's determination to pursue the law, I hope that this situation makes some kind of statement, because let's face it, for Garland to have approved, and he must have approved it, I would imagine that both Garland and Christopher Wray had to be aware of this, and if they were going to raid the home of an ex-president, I would have to guess they have pretty good reason for doing so, and by all accounts, most would think it's a fairly risky move because, of the political fallout. Already I'm noticing that Fox News is painting the situation completely upside down, as of course we would expect. However, if something is there in terms of illegality, I doubt that Garland or Wray are going to care very much about that. They're simply going to pursue the situation to its natural conclusion. And I'll finish by saying that basically, if you have a chart like this and you've been raided by the FBI, you're not in a good place. You really aren't in a good place. It's an extremely dicey situation. But what can you say? It couldn't happen to a nicer guy.